The 9 solutions to have a high energy diet. They're right behind me. I want to share them with you right now. Because once you have all 9 of these practices and principles in play, your diet will be serving you and leaving you with all the energy you want to do whatever else you want. The first solution is going to give us a way to measure our plate, for us to rate our plate and see, is this really the healthiest food for me? And we're going to do that by using a 6-parameter approach. The 6-parameter approach allows us to say, is this food whole? Is it fresh? Is it ripe? Is it raw? Is it organic? And is it plant? If the meal or the food matches those 6 parameters, it's truly going to leave us with the most energy. It's going to be the healthiest food for humans. Whole foods, almost everybody on every diet or any diet seems to agree that whole foods are better than fractured, refined, isolated foods. And that's just the fact because it's whole. It's got everything it could possibly have in it. It's got all the nutrients it could possibly have in it in the correct associations working together. Whereas when we refine it out, when we isolate it out, we're playing a game of trying to play God, trying to play the Creator. We're trying to piecemeal plug and input our nutrient needs. It's a much trickier game, and I would say it's a mistake to go down that route because we just don't know what we're missing. We don't know what we're messing with. We're better off getting our nutrition from whole foods. So whole is the first prerogative, whole foods. Then fresh. Fresh is going to be better than stale or preserved foods. Foods that are sitting on the shelf are not as nutritious for us as those that are freshly picked, freshly prepared. So whole, fresh, ripe, as opposed to rotten or unripe, just hasn't ripened up yet. We're looking for foods that are in there, right in that sweet zone. We call it ripe, but we're looking for the zone where they're most nutritious for us as well. The ripeness happens to also match the nutritiousness for us usually. When things are considered ripe by human standards, that means they often match our taste desire and often match our nutrition needs. So we're looking for whole, fresh, ripe. Raw, as opposed to cooked. Because when we're cooking, we're heating things, we're bringing flame to that food, and we're going to cause some damage to it. We're going to cause some nutrients to be lost, some nutrients to be deranged or unusable after that heat has been applied. So raw is going to be the preferred way. Every other animal eats their food raw. We ate all of our food raw only up until recent human history. Raw is what works. So whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic over pesticides or other poisons. We're just looking for food. So when we say organic, all we're saying is just give us the food as food. We don't want any other additives to it. I want an apple. I don't want an apple and pesticides, herbicides. I just want an apple. So whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic, and then plants. Plants are going to be healthier for us than dead animals. Dead carcasses are not the ideal food for the human. Yes, this body can process a lot. Yes, certain cars, a Ferrari can process unleaded fuel. It's just not what it's designed for. It just won't run as well. It just won't run as long. Same can be said for human. You want to put animal products in, put dead animals in, put the secretions of animals in. I highly recommend against it. And it will, in my opinion, and in my observation, and in my experience, lead to a lower level of health, a lower level of vibrancy and fitness and energy. So keep the animals off your plate. Pet them instead of eat them. Whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic plants. Those are the 6 parameters. Let's keep moving on. Those are the 6 parameters. Now we have a way to actually measure our food on our plate, our meal. That's what we're going for. That's the guideline I use. Yes, I eat foods that don't match those 6 parameters. My foods are not always whole foods. They're just, that's what you're going for. My foods aren't always the freshest, but that's what you're going for. These are guidelines, remember, not hard lines. So those are the 6 guidelines you can use, the 6 parameters you can use to guide yourself to choosing the best foods to put on your plate. The second practice we can start to apply is eating more simply. Now, yes, it's a simple solution, but it has profound effects on our energy levels. Really, it does. Eating simply. We have one stomach, which means we have the capacity to create one digestive environment at a time. That's it. If you put in 10 different foodstuffs And each foodstuff requires its own digestive environment to digest, to break down optimally, because we want things to break down completely so that they can be used again and assimilated and rebuild into things, into other structures, into other tissues. But if things aren't able to properly and fully digest, then that means our body can't properly use them, but it still also has to then eliminate that indigested thing, that undigested or improperly digested foodstuff. So the problem is twofold when things don't fully digest. It causes a problem in eliminating it. It also causes a problem in the fact that we didn't get the nutrients we actually needed. So we want things to fully digest, and we've got one environment to do it. It's our stomach. One little test tube, if you will. If I want to create a very acidic environment, well, I can do that. My stomach starts to create a very acidic environment to, say, break down something like nuts, or say something like, the stomach's going to try to break down something like meat or an animal product. So it's going to create a very acidic environment. Well, it's got a very acidic environment going to try to digest that. Then I also add in some fruit, or something sweet, or say some bread, or something else that's going to require a more alkaline environment. What happens in the stomach? It's only got the one spot, and right now it's acidic, and I'm adding something that requires an alkaline. What happens? The acidic environment remains. Certain foods have priority because of the dangers that would happen if they aren't digested. Imagine if meat just sat in your stomach or sat in your intestinal tract without breaking down. It would just putrefy even worse than it does. So certain things have priority. Certain things get to have the digestive environment match their needs. So the meat's got it, it's acidic. But the fruit's in there, the bread's in there, whatever alkaline substance is in there, it's going to ferment. It's going to produce acetic acid. It's going to produce alcohol. These are poisons to the body. That means you're lowering your vitality. That means you're lowering the amount of energy you can exert because your body is using that energy inwards, dealing with the toxic byproducts of your food choices. Yeah, it sounds, if you haven't contemplated it before, it's kind of mind-boggling. The possibilities of all the different combinations. I've put in ridiculous amounts of food into the stomach without ever contemplating the fact that it's just one stomach. I've put in pizza with milk, with bread, with fruit, with sugar and candy and all the stuff at once, and somehow I'm still living. But there was no way I was getting the most energy from my food, nor the most nutrition from my food, because I was putting all of it in there at once. Ideally, and when we look to nature, we see the model is every other animal eats one food at a time when they're hungry until they're full. And the reason this works so well is because it's called simplicity at the mealtime. Simplicity, allowing the body to fully digest the one food that entered its domain, allowing it to fully break it down, and then the next food gets entered later. Essentially what we're getting to with these simplified meals, these single food meals or mono meals, is simplicity at the mealtime and variety throughout the year. The simplicity at the mealtime allows us to get the full, efficient, optimal use out of that food, and then the variety throughout the year allows us to get our full array of nutrients that we need. But we don't have to get all of our nutrients at every meal. It just isn't the way the body works. It's great at recycling and sparing and holding on to nutrients as it waits for us to add in a fresh supply. A rule that I like to apply that helps me keep it simple, that helps me keep it in mind, is the rule of 5. I want my foods to have, or my meals to have, 5 ingredients or less, and then take me 5 minutes or less to prepare. That's the ideal. It's a guideline. It's a tool you can use. That's the rule of 5. It's useful to me. And in my ideal world, I'd love to get it also down to under $5. But sometimes that's not always the case, and sometimes that's going to require a little more work on my part as far as planting trees and planting my food so it goes down in cost. But that's the rule of 5. 5 minutes, 5 ingredients, ideally $5. Let's keep going with these rules and these guidelines and these tools. The third one we can apply is combining wisely. So we're eating more simply, and if we are going to combine, then we just want to be combining wisely. I didn't bring up the mono meal, the simplicity, to put a restriction on you or to smash your parade. We can still party. We can still have a lot of fun and combine our foods into fantastic arrays, just doing it more wisely, doing it with more intelligence, doing it more respect for the fact that the body has its limitations. We can't force it to do more than it can do, so let's just work with it. Let's work with that intelligence and combine our foods wisely. You can do that very easily. I put the whole food combining chart below. I could talk about it, but it's far easier to see this concept. Essentially, we're just going to combine our foods in a way that allows our body to digest them more efficiently. Put the acidic foods with the acidic foods so the body can create that environment. Put the foods that require the alkaline environment together, and now our body can digest things in a more easy way to do, or in a more energy efficient way. So that's what we're looking for. Let's combine our foods wisely. The fourth solution, eating more raw food. And I want to just touch back on the combining wisely. I put that link down there, and that's honestly some of the first steps I ask clients to take. If I'm meeting someone who's completely new to diet and lifestyle change, or wants to have more energy but doesn't want to give up anything, teach them how to combine their food more wisely. If you don't want to give up anything, at least start to combine your food wisely. Use that chart below, and it really will start to jumpstart the amount of energy you feel, even without taking anything out of your diet. Just changing the order and the arrangement of how you consume the foods you already choose to eat. Eating more raw food, though, that's our fourth solution. We can eat more raw food. Why would that help our energy levels? Simply, raw foods are easier for our bodies to handle. They require less energy for us to get our nutrients out, for us to get the fuel out of them than cooked foods do. Cooked foods just require more from us. They aren't as water rich. The water is usually cooked out. They aren't as fiber rich, oftentimes, as whole, fresh fruits and vegetables. So raw foods are always going to leave us with more feeling of vibrancy. They require less out of us to digest, and their fuels get into us more quickly. Fruit requires so little time to digest that we start to feel the effects of that fuel entering our system very quickly. But it also doesn't jump into our system. If you've been misled as far as fruit jumping into your system or bum rushing your system or your blood sugar spiking from fruit consumption, this is fallacious. Fruit doesn't do that. Sugar, isolated sugar may do so, but fruit has pectin and different fibers to hold that sugar in and slowly release it. It creates a perfect release. It's not a fast. That's why you'll notice that fruit isn't high on the glycemic index. So fruit is going to be your best friend here. Eating more raw food, eating more fresh fruit will leave you the best fuel you could possibly have. Not to mention, it spoils your appetite. Eating more raw fruit spoils your appetite, just like your mother said. If you eat that sweet thing before you eat dinner, you're not going to feel like eating dinner. Well, that's the point of eating. We want to be satiated. We want to spoil our appetite, as it were. Eating fresh, sweet fruit spoils our appetite. It fills us up. It satiates us. That's a fantastic thing. That's what we're looking for. So eating more fresh fruit. And then have some more greens every day. I would suggest if you're not having some greens every day, that you're not trying. Eat some greens. It'll make you feel better, especially if you aren't. Every day I try to consume some green vegetables because I know they do my body well. And to top it all off, now I happen to really enjoy and almost crave eating greens every day. So have more raw food, more raw fruits, more raw vegetables. They're always going to do you great. Fifth thing we can do to optimize our diet and have more energy from it is to keep it low fat. Bring the fat down. You think you eat a low fat diet? Bring it further down. Because almost every time I lost track and started to monitor my diet again, I'd say, am I really that high? And every time I take a client on and look at their diet is always higher in fat as a total percentage of their calorie intake than they would ever assume. Most of us have no idea just how much fat we're intaking. And this is easy to do if we're not making every meal ourselves. This is easy to do if we're buying processed foods or if we're eating out at prepared foods or at restaurants, because they often lay on the fat heavy. It increases the richness and the taste of it, and it does well for the restaurant, it does well for the processed food provider, but it doesn't do well for us. A low-fat diet And when I say low fat diet, I don't mean to eat lower fat than you need. It just happens to be low fat and compared to what everybody else is doing. It's technically and truthfully the optimal diet for fat. We're looking for the best range. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking to have a lower fat diet. You're just looking to have a low fat diet in comparison to everybody else. But really, we're looking for the ideal. We're looking to meet your nutrient needs. That's what we're always looking to do when it comes to food. We're trying to give everything we need with supplying the least amount of things that we don't need. When it comes to fat, we're supplying too much. Keeping it low fat is the solution. When we have lower than 10% of our total calories, so that means if we have 2,000 calories we're consuming, we only want to have 200 of those calories come from fat. That's 10%. 200 calories. When you start entering your information into some of the nutrient trackers I provide, you'll start to see how fast that number can go. If you add a tablespoon of oil, that jumps quickly. I mean, you added 120 calories of fat right there. It's a number that we've lost track of. So what's the benefit? Why would I want to keep my fat low? Why do I keep my fat low on purpose? It's for two major reasons for me, in my mind. I think of it and I feel these two. One, my oxygen is so much more available. My breathing is so much more easy. And I notice this, my cardiovascular system works so much more efficiently when I run and I have a lower fat diet. This is very easy to feel if you're a runner, if you're a cyclist, if you enjoy cardiovascular swimming activities. You'll notice this difference very quickly. You bring your fat down for a couple days and you'll start to notice the difference right away. And on the flip side, as I've experimented and fallen off the wagon, if I take in more fat than I need for a couple days in a row, even one day in a row after you become sensitive, you feel it. And you notice it in your performance, you notice it in your breathing ability. Also, I notice it in my fuel uptake, my sugar usage. Because fat in our system, when we have more than 10% fat in our system, as we talked about in the drains, we're heading towards diabetes. We're heading towards those symptoms where we can't get sugar out of our bloodstream fast enough because our bloodstream is so clogged up that our sugars can't get out, which means our insulin can't do its job of escorting them out. That leads to that diabetic symptoms. We've talked about that. So we want to keep our fat under 10% of our total calories. This is not just something I've experienced or seen. This is backed up by the longest study and the largest study. So both the two biggest studies, the longest and the largest study, both back this fact up. The longest study is a heart study called the Framingham Heart Study. I believe it spanned 40 or 50 years, but they conclusively decided that under 10% of total calories is the way to avoid having heart problems. It's the way to have a healthy diet, a healthy lifestyle. And also, the largest study, the China study, done by T. Colin Campbell, concluded the same thing, that we have to keep our fat percentage down under 10% of our total calorie intake if we want to have lower cancer rates, if we want to have a healthy diet. Those are the two that backed it up, the longest and the largest. There's a whole host of very reputable people living this lifestyle and recommending it and applying it to the people they work with, getting great results as well. I don't bring the list up to say that, oh, well, these people are doing it, so that makes it true. I bring the list up to give you more areas to research and more credence and more testimonial value to it. But it doesn't make it 100% true. It's just pretty cool that this many people of this high influence and of this great effect are finding the 10% of total calorie approach to be the best approach when it comes to fat intake. I'm thinking of people like T. Colin Campbell, who authored and ran that China study, or Dr. Michael Greger, or Dr. Esselstyn working with reversing heart disease. He used to be a former heart surgeon who found that if you just lowered the fat in people's diet, they wouldn't have problems. They even came up with a movie called Forks Over Knives with T. Colin Campbell, with Dr. Esselstyn, with Dr. McDougall, and they show, it's a very great movie. I put the link below. Forks Over Knives does a fantastic job of showing visually just what happens when you reverse heart disease, just what happens when you reverse cancer or when you reverse diabetes. And the solutions were the same, just lowering the fat intake. That's a dramatic effect, lowering your fat. And we can keep that fat lower. We can more easily lower our fat and maintain that low fat diet by cutting out the oils. Just forget using them. I remember using copious amounts of olive oil on my salad, thinking this was a very healthy salad. That was my mentality. I just didn't know any better. But now oils are out. I do not use oil. I do not recommend using oils. They don't serve us well. They're refined completely. We've refined every other nutrient out and left just the fat. And that's not a good thing by itself. But then that fat also has a huge tendency to go rancid, being in an isolated form, being isolated from its fiber and its nutrients. That fat almost always goes rancid. Even in those extra pure olive oil, virgin, keep the fat out. It's just extra pure, unadulterated fat. So keep the oils out. You have a much easier time keeping your fat lower. The sixth option for us when we want to have a high energy diet is going to be eating organically. Eating organic. I made a slight mention of it before in the 6 parameters, but eating organic is got to be the healthiest approach. Eating organic has to leave more energy for us than eating non-organic. Because what are we saying when we say we're eating non-organic? I don't know how they got away with using the term conventional and then organic as if organic is some special thing. Organic means we're doing less. Organic means we aren't adding the pesticides, the herbicides, the fungicides, the insecticides. None of those have ever been touted as a health benefit to you or to our children. No one has ever said, oh yeah, consume these herbicides if you want to grow strong. Consume this insecticide if you want to be intelligent. That's never the case. Those things are poisonous. Anything ending with that side, suicide, homicide, insecticide, herbicide, those are poisons. They kill. They only hurt us. The ingestion of those same substances that the people putting those, when they spray them in the field, they wear white masks and full suits. Any ingestion of those toxic products can't lead to more energy for us. That's just not the way it works. We're going to spend more energy having to deal with the elimination of those toxic products. So always, eating organic is always going to leave us with more energy to do the things we want to do. So high energy diet, this is just a fact. Eating organically leads to a higher energy diet than doing the opposite. Our 7th option when we want to have a high energy diet is going to be for us to keep out the stimulants. Yes, just keep out the things that are toxic, that are stimulating to us. This doesn't mean we can't enjoy them every once in a while, but it does mean we can be conscious of them, that we can be conscious of the fact that, garlic can't be consumed by itself. I can't make a meal of garlic. That's a rule. That's a guideline I use. That's a tool I use is, can I make a meal of this? Or can I give this to a baby? Can I give it to a baby and can I make a meal of it? And these 6 parameters. That's really going to give you a very, that's a bubble. That's a safe bubble. Anything that fits inside of, I can feed it to a baby, I can make a meal of it, and it hits those 6 parameters, anything inside that bubble is truly health food. Think of things that fit in there like a piece of watermelon, strawberry, lettuce, cucumber. Those all fit into that bubble. But garlic doesn't fit into that bubble because I couldn't really give garlic to a baby and just say, here, try this, daughter. I don't think she's going to like it. I think she's going to spit it out. And I certainly wouldn't want to make a meal of garlic. I don't think anyone would. Or of onion, or of cayenne pepper, or of salt, or of any other spice. Now, salt we tossed out before as just an inherent poison without really any benefit or I just don't really see a whole lot of use for salt, quite honestly. Salt is dehydrating, it's stimulating, it's toxic to the body, and we have no need for isolated sodium chloride, table salt. So salt for me is completely out. Keep out that stimulant like salt, but also reduce your intake of things like garlic and onions. You don't need them. We can't make a full meal of them. They're not the ideal foods for us, and they do have some negative effects on us. But like I said, these aren't hard lines. I'm not expecting you to go a whole lifetime without ever consuming onion or garlic. I personally don't want to go a whole lifetime without consuming onion and garlic. I still like to consume them, but I'm not going to make a garlic soup or like a garlic hummus or something that's just so heavy in garlic that that's all I taste. I want garlic, and I've reduced my sensitivity to these substances where I can actually appreciate a mild use of garlic, and I can just put a pinch of it in, or just a sliver, and I can still get the taste of garlic. I can still enjoy garlic without having the same amount of toxicity for my body to handle when it comes to garlic. Because garlic's an easy one to reference just because people happen to know a little bit more about garlic. But garlic is classified as an antibiotic, or has antibiotic properties. And that people say, that's great, antibiotic, I want to consume it. But antibiotic means against anything pertaining to life. Anti, against, bio, life, tick, pertaining to. Anything, it's against anything pertaining to life. It's antibiotic. That's not something we want to consume ideally. So keep the stimulants to a minimum. Keep them out if you can entirely. Make meals where you have no stimulant use at all. A meal of watermelon, a salad that just has a fruit and vegetable sauce on it. You don't need to have stimulants at every meal. And the more you reduce your intake, the more you'll be able to appreciate them when you do use them. So the more you reduce the amount of salts and spices that you season your foods with, the less you'll need to get the same taste effect after. The eighth solution, the eighth practice we can put into play to have a high energy diet is to plan our meals. It took me a while to learn this one. It took me a few years to learn this, the benefits of planning my meals, of buying food in large amounts. I happened to start doing that, but I still wasn't planning it. If I'm buying a box of sweet potatoes, if I'm buying a box of clementines, if I'm buying a box of bananas, it makes sense to start planning a meal around those. And it saves me a lot of time, and it'll save you a lot of energy and time by planning your meals. I'm not suggesting that you have to plan your week or plan your month or plan your year of meals. You don't even have to plan the whole day's worth of meals, but it's at least nice to know some kind of plan. I have the plan at least, my bare minimum for planning is I'm going to at least plan, when I wake up in the morning, I'm starting to plan what I'm going to eat for dinner, what the family is going to eat for dinner, because I tend to be the one who makes dinner for the family. So I want to have it in my mind so I can get certain things prepared. Say they require a little preparation beforehand. Say I want to toss the tomatoes into the dehydrator. Well, I'm going to need a couple hours of jump start on that. I can't start that at 5 o'clock and want dinner at the table at 6. So having a plan allows me to make things a little more special. It allows me to make things with a little more relaxation because I'm not stressing out at 5 o'clock trying to prepare things really quickly. I can prepare certain things earlier or throughout the day and get them ready for the dinner. And I also have, when I'm planning my day in the beginning, I'm also planning what I'm going to eat for lunch. Breakfast is very easy, but lunch also, I just tend to plan what am I going to have. Even if it's going to be a mono meal or a simple meal, I tend to just want to know, because then it's off my mind. I just go back to doing what I'm going to do for the day, and I know when I get hungry around this time, I'm going to grab this. And when I get hungry around this time, I can start this. And dinner's ready at that time. So planning your meals allows me to optimize how I use my groceries and how I shop, and also allows me to optimize the time in my day and the energy I end up using and putting into meal plans. I don't want to be thinking about my food very much. I like to free up my mental energy. I did an experiment one time where I knew what I was eating for the whole week. I had planned it out for the whole week, and I had bought all the ingredients, and I was ready for it. It was the best week of my life as far as mentally. I didn't have to think about anything for food. It felt great. I was amazed at how much energy I had put towards food prep and food planning. And it's still something I fall back on now. I'll revert to it. If I need free time, if I want the most energy, I will, or if I need a lot of mental space, I don't want to be focusing on things like that, of food prep, such mundane things, I will eat the same thing or plan my meals for the whole week and just eat that way, knowing I don't have to think about anything. I just have to eat to satiation, eat till I'm full. And it works really well. So planning your meals does save a lot of energy, does save a lot of time. I know I apply that little trick of planning a whole week, and I know other people apply that same trick too when they want to get a lot of stuff done as well. Planning your meals, save you time and energy. The ninth solution, this is the coup de grace. Eat a high energy diet. Yes, I know we've kind of been summing up the pieces of a high energy diet, but there are certain diets. I didn't label this as a high energy diet. I didn't try to create or codify my own special diet and own it and call it the high energy parenting diet. No, quite honestly, those books have been written and they've served me so well, I want to give them to you. There's many diets out there, there's many approaches, and these are many of the similarities that they're applying that lead to high energy. But there are still some minutia that you can feel free to check over or peruse, or if you just choose to follow a diet specifically, maybe you want to do that, or maybe you want to pick pieces from these. But there are certain diets that I would call high energy diets that happen to fit most of these categories, and they would be the diets of the 80-10-10 diet. That's a fantastic book. The 80-10-10 diet is a great diet. It's based on whole, fresh, ripe, raw organic plants, as opposed to a low-fat cooked approach, which would be like the McDougall books or the McDougall diet. If you check out Dr. John McDougall, it's a great approach, and it's all it's all vegan, all plant-based, but it has far more cooked foods. It has a starch-based approach as opposed to the raw fruit-based approach. There are a couple other diets. In between there, you have raw till 4, or another one I think called fruit till 5, but those are fantastic approaches as well. I believe Freely the Banana Girl promotes the raw till 4 the most, or is it fruit till 5? But either way, eating a raw food breakfast and lunch, eating a raw fruit-based diet up until that point, and then having a cooked dinner works really well too. It's similar. It's kind of a meld of the all raw and the all starch-based approach. But they work very well because there's no processed foods. You can still do them all organic. They have a large component of freshness. They're based around plants, and they're going to have a low-fat approach for sure. They're all going to have a low-fat diet approach. You can think of, if you're looking on YouTube or if you're looking for other examples of people living these lifestyles, you can get a quick glimpse of the energy and vibrancy of something like the 80-10-10 diet by looking at someone like Christina Carrillo-Bucaram. She's a fantastic example, or Chris Kendall follows that approach as well, and you can find both of those people. You can just type them into YouTube and find them very easily. Or the starch-based approach, Durian Rider. Well, I suppose he's like more of a raw till 4, that Harley or Durian Rider on YouTube. You can find him and Freely on YouTube. Those two are following that starch-based approach, as well as Happy Healthy Vegans. They're both on it as well, and Ryan and Angie are their names, and they seem to be doing very well with it as well. There's a lot of people on YouTube following either the starch-based approach that McDougall, you can search him, is following, or that raw till 4, fruit till 5 approach, or the all raw 80-10-10 approach. If you're asking where my preference happens to lie, mine does happen to lie in the fruit, in the 80-10-10 approach. I happen to feel my best when I eat an all raw fruit-based diet and I keep the cooked stuff out. Now, if I do have any cooked stuff, it's going to be that raw till 4. I'm almost never going to default into the starch-based McDougall approach, though I know it works really well for people, though I know it works really well for his clients and the people who apply that approach. It's just, for me, the less cooked food I have, the better I seem to feel and perform. And so I'm ideally looking to hit the 80-10-10 diet and keep it raw. And the more diets and recipes you try, the more meals you plan out, the easier it is for you, the easier it'll be to stay on whatever approach it is. I know how to make a tremendous amount of meals on 80-10-10 diet, so for me it doesn't feel very limiting. But for some, they come in and it feels very limiting because they don't know what to make. Am I just going to eat bananas? Am I just going to eat watermelon? So thankfully, or hopefully, you've got the solutions to apply and follow one of these diets because you have got the meal plans to follow either the all raw, low fat approach, or you can follow 33 days of a fruit-based in the morning and starched at night approach, or you can follow a starch-based approach for 33 days. You've got those solutions in your 33-day meal plan. But that is the ultimate solution for the lifetime when you want to have a high energy lifestyle. When it comes to diet, you need a high energy diet. That's the ultimate solution, and that's going to happen most easily by planning your meals, by keeping out the stimulants, by eating more organic foods, keeping out those pesticides and poisons, keeping the fat under 10% of your total calorie intake, eating more raw food, keeping the cooked food to a minimum as you can, and just consuming more, just doing a better job of eating more fresh, more raw, and then combine our foods wisely. Use that chart to your advantage and start to eat according to how your body can handle foods. So combine wisely, and then eat more simply as well. Eat more meals where it's just one food, just two foods, just three foods. Follow that rule of 5 and reduce your total ingredient list down to under 5. Keep it simple, and reduce your own time in the kitchen, and make it easier on your body to absorb and use that food. And then follow the 6-parameter approach. Keep those 6 parameters in your mind when you're eating, when you're preparing foods. Those are the guidelines you can use, the 6 parameters to help you find healthier foods to put on your plate. That's the 9 solutions. Those are the 9 solutions. That's all I've got. If you apply all of these, that's all you need when it comes to diet. This is going to leave you feeling fantastic. This is going to leave you with great amounts of energy. You'll be a high energy parent.